He's here, as promised. Another hour of open forum this hour, and Jimmy Akin in the house. 888-31-TRUTH, the number. If you don't know how open forum works.
Yes, my question is in regards to Matthew 16:18.
Okay.
And specifically on the keys. I want to know why it is that you connect the keys with the key of David in Isaiah 22, whenever it is said that Jesus has the key of David in Revelation 3:7. But not only that, the names are different and the key is singular in Isaiah 22, but plural in Matthew 16.
Okay, you're asking why I do that?
Well, as the majority of people, I'm not sure if you really hold to that position, but
I do.
I know that. Oh, okay, yeah, and I'm curious as to know why in regards to those three reasons. Yeah.
So the first thing to point out is biblical symbols work on more than one level. And so sometimes we come at things in a way that doesn't recognize that. We assume that a symbol can have only one meaning and it can only refer to one thing. But that's not how symbols work in the Bible. A single symbol can be used in more than one way. Famous example of that is the heads of the beast. If you look in Revelation 17, you'll see that the heads of the beast are interpreted as being both 7 mountains or hills and 7 kings. So one symbol refers to these two different things. And that's one of the ways that symbols work in the book of Revelation. They also work that way elsewhere in Scripture. Another famous example is the morning star. The morning star, or what we know as the planet Venus, but because it tends to remain visible in the sky and, in the morning, it's known as the morning star. Well, it gets used in Scripture in more than one way as well. It is used, for example, as a symbol of Jesus. That's in the New Testament.
Right.
But in the Old Testament, it's used as a symbol of the king of Babylon.
Ah, yeah.
And so,
right.
Yeah. And so, consequently, we see that one symbol can refer to more than one thing. That's also true of the foundation of the church. The foundation of the church is used like 5 different ways in the New Testament. In one passage, it refers to Peter. In another passage, it refers to Jesus. In another passage, it refers to the 12 apostles. So it gets used multiple different ways. Well, the symbol of the keys works the same way. We shouldn't expect there to just be one way that symbol works. So when you look at Revelation and Jesus identifies himself as having the key of David, well, that's true, but what is Jesus saying about himself? You have to look back to the Old Testament and say, what did the key of David represent then? Well, David was the founder of the Davidic dynasty in Israel, the line of Davidic kings that descended from him. And he had various officials, and the subsequent kings that descended from David also had various officials. One of them was known as the master of the palace. And he was kind of the chief official who was in charge of running the household on behalf of the king, so the king was freed up to do other things. And as a symbol of the fact he was the master of the palace, he had the key to the palace. That was a symbol of his office. He'd even wear it in a little pouch on his shoulder as a symbol of that. And we see that in the book of Isaiah. So what is Jesus saying when in Revelation, he says, I have the key of the house of David? Is he saying, I'm the master of the palace that's subordinate to the actual Davidic king? Or is he saying, I'm the Davidic king who owns this key?
Yeah, right.
And well, it would seem to me he's saying the latter. He is the fulfillment of the prophecy of David's future son who would reign forever. And so when he says, I have the key, he means I'm the one in charge of this whole palace. I'm the one who's the new David. And consequently, I own the palace and I have this authority, which he can then give to whomever he wants. He can appoint anyone he wants as the steward of his palace. And in Matthew, when we just take this passage on its own and say, okay, well, what does Jesus mean in context here? Well, you look back into the Old Testament to say, what are the precedents for the symbol of a key? And there's only one. There's only the one in Isaiah. The keys are mentioned on other occasions, but they're not used symbolically. And so the one time that we have a key used symbolically in the Old Testament, it's in a context where it refers to someone who reigns on behalf of a king as his chief steward. And in this passage, Jesus, the new Davidic king, is talking to Peter about how I'm giving you, Peter, authority, and I'm putting you over my household, the church. It's natural to read what Jesus is saying about the key here or keys, it happens to be plural, in light of the passage in Isaiah, because we have the same context. We have a Davidic king, we have a grant of authority to a single individual ruling over a household. All those elements are present in Isaiah, all of those elements are present in Matthew. And so consequently, it's natural to read Matthew 16 in light of Isaiah 20.
Casey, I'm going to leave it there because there are lots of folks on the line. I hope that was helpful to you. Connor in New York, listening on the Catholic Answers app. You are next, Connor. Thanks for downloading the app onto your phone. Your question for Jimmy.
Hey, Jimmy. We've talked before, but I wanted to thank you again for the role that you played in my conversion. You know, it's been such a blessing, and I'm going to get baptized just a week from now. And
congratulations.
So
welcome home, and it's my honor to have played a role. Thank you.
Thank you. So my question is whether St. Papias was wrong when he said that the Gospel of Matthew was written in Hebrew, and whether that